Right. Welcome back to another edition of the Nick and Jack Show. I am Jack Ridenour alongside my good friend and co-host Nick Ramsey. We're going to be bringing you some week recap of winter sports, men's and women's hockey. Had a couple games, got a couple games coming up. Men's and women's basketball also had 2 games themselves. Going to be having 2 more games this week, tomorrow and Saturday. And we also have spring sports coming up too. And I'm going to give it away to Nick here, member of the Chatham men's baseball team, and he will give us a little bit of a rundown for not only baseball but also softball.
Softball. I'm going to start off with softball because me being on the baseball team, it makes it a little easier to talk about. But we really don't have a lot of affiliation with the softball team, so we're not going to have we're not going to have a ton of information until the season kind of kicks off and gets going a little bit. So the only thing we can really talk about at this point is last season. So overall, they had a 5-25 record with a 167 win percentage. So if you're looking at the wins losses, you look at the stats. The only place they really have to go is up. They were 3-15 in conference. They ended on a one game winning streak, so at least they ended the season with a win. And you look at some teams play better on the road, some teams play better at home. Mm-hmm. They were pretty much just not feeling it wherever they went. At home, they were 1-7. Away, they were 2-8. And at their neutral sites, which is primarily the spring trip down to Myrtle Beach, both softball and baseball take their kind of spring training trip to, like I said, Myrtle Beach. And we're actually going to be leaving in just under a month. We leave March 3rd, so that's going to be pretty exciting. We're doing our fundraising for the trip and all that jazz. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got on softball. I mean, I think they're going to have a good little season so far. I think we're going to get a lot more information as the season goes on, but I definitely look forward to seeing how they do. Now to baseball. I have a little bit more information on the baseball team because I'm very, very active in that. We didn't really lose a whole lot of guys from last year. I know we lost Carmen Jansanti. He was a senior. He was a big bat in the lineup. He usually batted cleanup for us. We lost Austin Ferris. He was typically our 7, 8, 9 inning guy. Usually 9, but we kind of figured out midseason he was better as the 7, 8 inning guy. Then we lost Landon Ferroni. He was kind of he was a second baseman, and he graduated. Well, all 3 of them graduated. Actually, I think Ferris. Ferris went somewhere else. I know he's still in the Pittsburgh area though. I know he got a job somewhere. But Carmen and Landon both graduated, so they're not with us anymore. And I did graduate, but I got accepted in the master's program, and I have 1 more year of baseball. And then after that, the cleats are getting hung up. But other than that, we lost a couple pitchers due to just family issues, schooling, other things like that, just beyond our control. So we lost a couple guys to that. We lost an outfielder in Hunter Steele. We lost Meyer Parr. He was a lefty pitcher. He talked to us, and he just didn't have the time with schooling. He's a very school-centered guy, and we respected that decision for him to leave to focus on his schooling. I know Hunter Steele, he left too. He is a nursing student. Oh wow! He was a big loss just because we're going to miss his speed.
Absolutely.
One thing about us is we're not the power hitting team. Like you can look at all the stats, like because stats don't always say everything. Like we were 1-17 in conference last year, but so on paper we were very terrible, and it's hard to defend a team when they're 1-17. But we lost, I think 7 games by 1 run, and I think 10 plus games by 2+ runs. And I think 7 of those games we lost them in the 8th or 9th inning. Mm-hmm. So those are games where we were almost trying to find ways to lose. And I know that's one of the big things our coaches are emphasizing with us. But definitely losing some speed like that was not a benefit for us. But we made up with a lot of speed too. We replaced a Hunter with a Hunter. I know one of the new guys at first year is Hunter Swartz. And he's one of the main contenders for an outfielder's starting spot, and he definitely has some speed. So at least we weren't kind of totally left hanging. I know we got a couple 4 new catchers. 3 of them are first years. One of them is a junior. They all have pretty great arms. We have one returning catcher, Mike Rousey. He's a junior. So it's going to be really interesting as the season progresses to see who's going to land that starting role in the catcher spot. And then everywhere else, we got a couple new guys. We have a new third baseman, Tanner Klein. I know there's some guys I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but we got a lot of returners, and it's going to be a really exciting year. We got a lot of great leadership. I think the coaches are starting to get more accustomed to each other's coaching strategies. Just the way they coach. I think they're all kind of warming up to each other, and they're all just meshing better. If that makes sense. Right. I think they're the longer they spend together, the better they get together.
Absolutely. So, I remember watching you guys' games last year. I watched a good amount of your games, and you guys would always start up very strong. Like you said, you would usually lose the game towards the latter part of the game, 8th, 9th inning. But I remember very, very distinctly a doubleheader at home last year against Westminster. Mm-hmm. You guys played really well both games. Honestly, you guys played really, really well. I actually think that you guys split with them.
Yeah, that was our one conference win. And I'll tell you what, I will never forget that game. That was my best defensive game. And
yeah, you turned that unassisted double play. I remember talking to you about it after the game.
I mean,
I remember
things were just going right in the field for me that day. I don't have a lot of those days where I can just be just solely excited about my performance, but that was one of those days that I just won't forget, because that was also my senior day too, before I made the decision to come back. So that was a special day for me personally, and it was cool getting our first conference win that day too. So it was definitely an exciting little series. But another thing, Thomas Moore's out of the conference.
That's true.
That's going to be a big help for us, because especially for baseball, W&J. They always have a.
They're usually nationally ranked, right? They
exactly.
were nationally ranked a couple
years ago. They won the national championship. So them and Thomas More usually kind of fought for the 1 and 2 spot, and then there were 2 remaining spots for whoever made it. Mm-hmm. But now with Thomas More moving up to D2, that creates a lot more room to have. There's no longer just two open spots.
Absolutely.
That third spot is the one we're aiming for, because we're 1 and 17. Our goal is just to make the playoffs. If we get there, it's gonna be a very proud year, and I think that's a very possible thing. I'm not gonna overshoot our expectations. Right. Because we're obviously gonna
knock on wood.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone at home who's watching, knock on some wood for the baseball guys.
Exactly. We already know we're gonna be slated last in the preseason rankings, and no one blames anybody for that. 1 and 17, dead last in conference, obviously. Mm-hmm. But another knock on wood, we have nowhere to go but up. So it's going to be an exciting year, and yeah, I'm just really excited about it.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm excited to watch you guys play. I'm excited to see the new guys, the new additions.
You're going to do the streaming.
Absolutely.
You just got the clearance.
Yes. I will be doing the live streaming for the baseball games. So, you'll be hearing my voice for those. Tune in and watch. Check out the baseball team, softball team also.
Before I forget, also, our Twitter, our Instagram, it's up and running. Follow the Nick and Jack Show. Just the Nick and Jack Show. Pretty simple, but we're trying to get the ball rolling on social media. So we got the accounts up and running, and we'd love a follow. We'd love a shout out. We're gonna be pretty engaged with our followers. So we're just trying to get both our names out and the show.
Absolutely.
Who knows where this show could take us?
Absolutely. DM us. Let us know if you have any questions or suggestions,
anything.
Input for our show, any kind of new material we should do, anything. We're open to all and every suggestions, even name changes. Quite frankly, I like the name. That's just me.
Because I think the official name of the podcast is Nick and Jack Cougar Chat. But, in a more broad term, we do some streaming, we do PA, we do this podcast, we just do the Nick and Jack Show. Because, if you tune in, it's going to be a show. It's
absolutely
going to be something to see.
We definitely always give the people a good show.
That's
what we try to do. We try to do it with this. We hope we give you all a good show.
We hope. You want to take a quick break and then come back to talk about some winter sports?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. Get a snack if you need to, because this next segment is going to be a really good one. We're going to be talking about some winter sports, men's and women's hockey, men's and women's basketball. Some teams are going to be making the playoffs, and one team, not going to let you guys know who yet, may or may not be getting a playoff home game. So tune in and check that out for the second segment.
What's up, everybody? We are back. Second segment of the show right now, and I believe we just talked about some baseball, softball, all the good stuff, and we got some more action for you. I think Jack's going to start off with some men's hockey.
Absolutely, yeah.
And talk about some playoff teams in contention.
Absolutely, men's hockey. Yeah, they've been struggling a little bit lately, but there is a bright side. Brought in a lot of new first years this year, and actually one of the first years has really stepped up big time. Michael Lamison, leading the team in goals scored, and he's also first overall in the team in total points. He has 7 goals this year, 5 assists, 12 total points. So I've been watching their games. I've been watching them, and I got to say that kid's very good, very talented. He moves well on the ice. He's good stick skills too. So
definitely, and you and me usually get a first row.
Seat. We get on the ice.
We get ice
yeah,
seats.
we got the nice digs. That's what they pay us the big bucks for.
Exactly.
You know,
$8 an hour. Gotta love it.
Hey, you know what?
Hey, whatever pays the bill.
I'll take it. At this point, I'll take it. But yeah, last year it was their first year as a first-year program. Struggled a little bit, but this year definitely a lot of improvement. Definitely a lot of big-time change for the better. And like you've been mentioning, teams going onward and upward. This is definitely another team that has been building off of previous years. This year they're 5-14-2 overall, 3-10 in the conference, and honestly, that's a big improvement. Only won 2 games last year, so
2-14 last year in the conference. So it's and you got to give them some leeway. That's how it was with all Chatham sports.
Absolutely.
The first year. I remember. Well, our last year was our first official year in conference, and we were 1-17, so we have no room to talk.
I mean, hey,
but the year before that was kind of our test run year.
Yeah,
and I think we went can't remember. I think
you guys
were
are pretty good. I remember,
14-23. We played some JV teams. We played some teams that aren't necessarily in our conference, but we got more wins. Not technically conference wins, but we got more wins against conference teams our first unofficial year than we did last year. I think maybe the nerves just got to us last year, but it just kind of goes to show once you get your feet wet a little bit, then you start to know the conference. Players start to get more. Comfortable with each other, comfortable with the coaches, and then in the coming years, you just kind of figure things out, and that's the stats talk for themselves,
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it's definitely on the up and up for this team. I can almost guarantee you by the time that they're all seniors and they've all had 3 years of experience under their belt, I think it's going to be a team that's definitely going to be a force to reckon with in the conference, and definitely a team to be on the lookout for. Definitely. Honestly, jumping on over to the women's side of the ice. Trying to find a kind of a catchy hockey term right there. We'll work on that. Anyways, 2 tough losses for the ladies against Elmira. Elmira College has historically been known as kind of one of the top D3 hockey teams in the country, both men's and women's. I remember the men's team playing last year, and they were very good. They're both tough opponents for the Cougars. Women's lost 7-0 one game and 6-0 another game. So tough outing for the women. Very high scoring game. Tough outing for the women, but they've had a pretty decent year this year. 7-15 overall. 4-11 in conference. They actually had last year. They had one of their better players and a senior this year. Jill Rowland sat out most of the year with a shoulder injury. She's back this year, actually leading the team in goals scored with 9 goals scored, and is first in the team in points also with 13. So she's having a great senior year, coming off that shoulder injury that she had last year. Again, I think both teams, men's and women's hockey, I think they're going to be on the up and up.
They're kind of still on the lower end of their conference, so not a lot of playoff hopes this year. But I see a lot of
it's a lot of positive change.
Exactly.
Yeah,
a lot of
positive
change
change
for the coming years. I see a lot of good things both coaches are bringing to the table, and I'm excited to see where they go.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm very excited to see where both these teams go, and it'll be fun to watch them. But both teams even grow. How the players grow. How I know we mentioned Michael Lamison. How Lamison will grow. How the other first year will grow. So definitely, it's going to be very exciting on the ice. And now over to the court.
Let's talk about a couple
basketball
playoff contenders.
Absolutely. So first off, men's basketball has been having an awesome year. In my opinion, I think talk of the campus. Honestly, 13-8 overall this year. Best record they've ever had The program just started in the PAC conference 4 years ago, our first year here, and they've honestly, I know that you were talking about teams that have really built year after year. It's another team that's really come a long way from when, everyone was a first-year player on the team, playing against all seniors, older, experienced players. It's tough. It is very tough,
It really is.
and it's hard to really kind of translate that game from high school over into college that first year. But they've done a great job of adjusting, and honestly, I think what has been a big part for them is the chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
They've been returning guys.
When you think of look at the starting five. Let's look at Chatham basketball's first game. Look at the starting five and look at the starting five to a game now.
Yeah,
I think at least three of them are the same. Bomar, Chopin,
and Isaiah.
Isaiah, exactly. Yeah. And you've had a couple floaters in and out. Stedman, he hasn't been getting a lot of playoff time a lot of playing time this year, but he's still one of the guys that have been here. He's been here since the start. Nas, I know he's been his minutes have been going up a lot lately, and I love the way he's been performing. I remember I went to the game this past Saturday, and he was only in for a couple minutes, and I saw him drain another 2 threes. Very crucial too, because it was kind of on a little moment where the opposing, I can't remember who they played. Bethany. You always talk about how basketball is a game of runs. I think we were up by 16 when I came in, and then they made it back. They were only up by 7, and then Nas drains a couple from beyond the arch, and he just made it work.
Yeah.
So I love seeing him come in. All these returners, it seems like they're really meshing very well together.
Yeah, and I think they have a good core group of first years also.
Definitely.
And I think that they're going to step into new roles next year in their own roles. And I think they're taking great tutelage from the seniors and the older guys.
That's a fancy word right there.
Hey, trying
very
to be fancy.
fancy.
Like we say, you got to fake it till you make it.
Professional.
Absolutely, trying. We're making an effort here. But yeah, like you mentioned, they had a huge win on Saturday. Beat Bethany 77-58, almost beat them by 20 points. Anthony Bomar, I have never seen that man so hot from beyond the arc in my life. 5 for 5 to start the game. Finished 5 for 7 from beyond the arc. 17 points. Him and Will Sander both led the way. I was very impressed. That's another person. I know that you and I on our Cougar Live coverage, we talk a lot about how guys have improved so much over the years, and Anthony Bomar is definitely one guy to make big note of. He's changed his jump shot in an incredible amount. He's improved it an incredible amount. I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I just remember talking to them and saying, yeah, our first year, I'd never imagined Anthony Bomar making 5 threes in a game. And now he's done it a couple times in his career, and, he's making it look almost effortless, honestly. We like to refer to him as Mr. Reliable on this show. Does a little bit of everything, passing, rebounding, shooting.
Chatham currently third,
yeah.
In the conference, too.
Yep, and to answer the little riddle that I gave before we went to break, the men's team has a shot at having a home playoff game, and I believe it's the first home playoff game in men's basketball history here.
Oh, really?
Yes. So exciting stuff.
It's gonna be very exciting. Hopefully, we'll be on.
Knock on wood.
We'll be on the stream together.
Knock on the wood. Well, hopefully we'll be on the stream for that.
Show.
But knock on wood that they are able to finish out this season strong. I know that they have, I believe, 4 more games left. Last game's at Latrobe against St. Vincent, so that's going to be a tough game going into St. Vincent. That environment's always very hard to play in.
Definitely. I remember the one playoff game I did go to. That was when Chatham, my first year here, and their first year in the program, they played St. Vincent at St. Vincent, and it was a tough game. It was a tough game.
But that same year, I will say program's first ever playoff win. They beat Geneva the game before that. So that's exciting stuff. And now fast forward 4 years, and now they have their chance of having their first ever home playoff game. So that's an awesome improvement. And like we said, it's kind of a trend here at Chatham University.
What about the girls?
The women's had a great game also. They won 60-50, beat the Bison, and they played, I think, one of their better games this year. I think offensively they moved the ball well. Spacing was really good.
The girls team they're just to let everybody know, they're 4th in the conference right now. So if it stopped today, they're in the playoffs. They don't. I don't believe they'd get a home game for that, but
probably not.
Either way, they're in.
Yeah. Well, hey, another That's going to be a constant theme on this show, so knocking on wood. Make sure our women stay in the playoff talk, and hey, you never know. A couple teams lose, and the women's win out a couple games, then maybe they do get a home playoff game. Hopefully, but Katie Sig had a great game, another great game for the senior point guard, 22 points. But I will say, I don't know about you, but I've noticed Ashley McLean has been struggling a little bit past couple games. I think it's a big attribute to being tired. I think she's been playing lots of minutes, 35 to 40. Yeah,
all of them have been just playing nonstop, and we've talked about this a good couple times.
Absolutely,
like, you have to expect this. That if you're playing 40 minutes a game towards the end of the year, you are going to be wore out.
Absolutely, you're going to be very tired, especially someone who's coming off of a big knee injury. She had an ACL tear last year, so someone who's coming off a huge injury like that and coming in and she's playing upwards of 40 minutes a game almost every single night. It's starting to show a little bit in her jump shot. She's starting to be a little short on her jump shot, but I will say she's been playing aggressively the entire year. I don't think her stamina and her sense of being tired has really gotten in the way of that. She's continued to drive to the basket aggressively, defensively. Also, she's done a great job on the perimeter, guarding the best ball handlers and kind of the main ball handlers for the other teams. And she's done a great job all year long. A big senior year coming out party for her. One of the leading scorers for the Cougars, and she's had a couple really big games. And one of the 1,000-point scorers that we've constantly been talking about. 5 members in the 1,000-point club this year for both men's and women's basketball. Alex Chopin and Isaiah Brown recently.
Definitely. I think overall, definitely an exciting year for women's basketball, men's basketball, the whole B-ball program here at Chatham. It's very exciting, especially if both of them make the playoffs, which they're on an upward trend right now. I'm looking at the women's last. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Game that really jumps out to me before you go off is that W&J win. An away game against the number 2 team.
Both teams.
Yeah, and both teams, yes, and both W&J teams are number 2 in their conference respectively. And
big wins.
Both Cougar teams came in and took wins away from them on their home court. So that's always a huge sign, especially at this point in the season.
Definitely.
Coming down to the wire, playoffs is right around the corner.
It's what you do in those kind of must-win games,
Absolutely.
Because,
backs against the wall. That's when the best players come out. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So
I'm looking at their last 7 games, and it's very wishy-washy. In their last 7 games, it's win-loss, 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 win.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're following that, they're slated to get a loss against Teal, but hopefully, in terms of
right, yeah.
In terms of that,
looking at it formula sense, absolutely, yeah.
But hopefully,
I think that they can change that. I think they can definitely change that.
I think they can.
It's a team.
I mean, their last game against Geneva, they won 91-79. So they played Teal and then Geneva, then St. Vincent. So that's going to be St. Vincent. They lost 58-82. St. Vincent's number 1 in the conference. So that's going to be a hard game.
That's going to be a tough game.
If we're looking at this now, they need to win. They need to beat Teal and Geneva.
2 out of 3. I think they can
which
definitely.
Is very likely.
Absolutely. I think Teal and Geneva are 2 very beatable teams. Teal is a team that notoriously the Cougars have kind of gone back and forth with. Mm-hmm. And I think that, if everything falls into place, Katie Sig and Megan Sig come out strong. Ashley McLean's having a great game. Sierra Ungerman and Liv Barkley step up big time because I know at certain points in this year they've stepped up big time in important parts of the season. I definitely think that they can finish the season out 2 and 3 and have a nice solid spot going into the playoffs. And like you were mentioning before, Thomas More out of the conference. That is one team, and I should say one sport that us Chatham fans and other Chatham athletes are very thankful that Thomas More is no longer in the conference because Thomas More notoriously would run away every year with the women's basketball title. Actually won 2 out of 3 national championships the last 3 years. I actually believe they had one of them vacated. They had some sort of NCAA sanctions, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but
either way,
yeah. Still, I mean,
thing.
And with Thomas More being out of the league, though, again, like you were mentioning, it's anybody's league really, both men's and women's side. So it'll be fun to watch towards the stretch of the season, and hopefully we do get that shot of calling that playoff game. I think that'd be an awesome atmosphere. Never broadcasted a game in a playoff atmosphere, so that would be really cool to experience. Absolutely.
Before we go quickly, too, just want to remind everybody, Social media is up and running. The Nick and Jack Show. Nick and Jack Show.
Hit that follow button.
Exactly. Turn the red to green or
Absolutely.
blue to green.
It's a blue.
Well,
Whatever.
turn
Just
blue,
hit that follow
blue
button.
to green on Instagram. Turn the gray to blue on Twitter. Either way, follow us for some exciting sports news.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. Thanks
Nick
for
and
joining
Jack
us.
Show.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll be bringing you another episode next week, so be sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and keep following with the podcast. And make sure Wednesday, tomorrow, men's and women's basketball, I know they have an away game. Men's hockey has a home game at noon. But Saturday, let's fill the AFC up.
Let's do
Men's
it.
and women's basketball senior day, I should say. 12-2 is the tip-off. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited. I know you're pumped.
Oh, I'm very pumped. Also, just so you can see our podcast, they're going to be on the Chatham Athletics YouTube. So obviously, if you're listening to this, you did a good job finding it. So just come back for more.
Nice investigative work.
There we
Good
go.
job. Have a great week at school, and we'll see you guys next week.